I am excited about Jesus. And I'm so excited that you have taken time to join us today right here on My Sister's Couch, where we have our lovely guest today. Thank you so much for welcoming me into your lovely home. All right, I really do appreciate it. So thank you so much, sis. So this is Prophetess LaKisha Kelly, and she is a disciple of Kingdom Nation, located in North Augusta, South Carolina, up under the leadership of Pastors Kenneth and Denisha Freeman. All right. She is the mother of 3. She has 2 boys and 1 girl. She has been married 12 years. And she also has her own ministry called LaKisha Kelly Ministries. And up under that ministry, she has a mentoring program. Her and her husband also co-host a Bible study together. And she also, under that program, has a training for intercessory prayer. All right, awesome. I love it. And also right now, she is the co-author of a book that's getting ready to go to print, and it's called Chosen. So we're excited to have you here with us today on My Sister's Couch, and LaKisha gets a chance to share some of her story and her testimony. And so I had a chance to talk with LaKisha, and it was moving. You know, we've had so much going on, within these last few years. But LaKisha started her testimony in 2019, her journey. And she comes to tell us today about her journey starting from 2019, when she really made up in her mind to give God another yes, a deeper yes, a more eternal yes. And then not only did you tell him yes, you said that whatever it costs, at all costs. And so we know sometimes in our walk, we have all had that refreshing moment, a reviving moment, where we knew that we needed to get closer or deeper with God. And I think that's the place that where LaKisha was at. But she didn't know exactly maybe what it really was going to take and what was going to cost her. And so today we want to hear a little bit about that. Now we know transitions happen. And so I do know, because she shared with me a lot of her story. She had multiple deaths, so a lot of grief with her uncle passing, with her with her grandfather passing, who raised her. Her grandmother had already passed away in 2016, and they raised her as their own. And then she had, the loss of her grandfather, who she loved dearly as a dad. And how she sort of had spiraled down into a darker place because of that loss. And then an uncle who had later passed away. We don't know really if it was COVID. We don't know really what it was. That's when the onset of COVID sort of came on at that time. Now we're into 2020, right? And so she had another loss. And so just back to back, just loss and grief. And then she got a phone call where her husband came home, and she thought she was sort of feeling some kind of way. Why don't you start with your testimony? Tell us your story.
Well, first of all, I'm excited to just be here and have you in my home to host Sister's Couch. Definitely an opportunity anytime you were able to come and just tell and talk about God, and just how God brings us through so many different situations, and how we see when we're in it that we don't think that we're going to make it through those situations. And as you said, so many losses, so many ups and downs. When I decided and made a choice in myself to tell God that whatever it may cost, that I say yes. And to me, that's a big thing, because a lot of times what keeps us from saying yes to that assignment or that calling on our lives is that we don't want to pay the cost. And 2019, I had that experience where I told God yes, whatever it costs, and didn't know that immediately after saying that I was going to have to pay that cost. And it started off with deaths, 2 deaths, aunt, uncle, back to back. And then as you were speaking, saying before bringing me in, my husband telling me I'm not feeling good, so we thinking maybe he just got a cold, a real bad cold, strep throat, because of the signs that he was having and the symptoms he was having. And I remember one Wednesday night, when we completed our conversation, I remembered the day. It was a Wednesday night. I was working, and I said, wow, he was already in bed because I worked at night, but I worked from home. And I started feeling bad. And I started feeling weak. My throat started hurting.
Okay.
And I was like, the first thought, I'm like, oh my God, this joker done gave me something.
Right.
He done gave me what he had. Because, we sleeping in the same bed together, sharing the same air. So I'm like, he done gave me what he had. But not knowing his symptoms were worse than what he was expressing to me. Well, that Thursday, I woke up feeling even worse, if worse can be a word. And my car was in the shop. So I told my daughter, I said, I'm going to take you to school because I'm going to use your car this morning because I have an appointment. Going to get my nails done. And, and I told my nail tech, I said, I'm not feeling good. I said, but I'm going to wear a mask. This is before the pandemic even hit. Wow. I said, I'm going to wear a mask.
Okay.
And she said, well, we can I said, girl, no, I got to get my nails done. I said, but anyway, got my nails done. And as I was sitting there, I was getting weaker. And almost to the point I said, Lord, just give me the strength to make it to Richmond Academy because that's the school that my daughter goes to. And I made it there, picked her up. I told her, I said, look, you're going to have to drive back because I can't do it.
Okay.
Well, in my mind, I was going to come, lay down for a few minutes, and then I'm going to log on and go to work. And I got up after laying down, and it was like I couldn't even make it to the computer. So I called my husband up, and I told him, I said, where are you? Because mind you, he's still going to work because in his mind, I got this to do, I got that to do. And he said, well, I'm going to grab me something to eat. And he said, I'll come home and we can go to the emergency room. I said, yes, because you're going to go. And I told my daughter, I said, I need you to take us to the hospital. Because at this point, I can't drive. He really can't drive. We last leg.
Okay.
We get to the emergency room. They took us right back. They put me in one room, put him in another room. And I'm sitting in the room, they done came, took culture samples and all kinds of stuff. Okay. And I'm sitting in the room and I hear the doctor come down the hallway. And it was like he was upset. He was angry. He was like, why is he over here? And he was just saying all kinds of things like that. And I'm like, oh, I said, somebody must be really sick. And they don't put him in the wrong
room or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
But not knowing that the he's talking about is my husband. And so at this particular point, when I realized it as he went towards the room that he was in, because we was in the rooms where the curtains are at, and I seen him go to the room because we were right next door, and I'm looking, I'm like, okay, what's going on? Because something seems serious. Nobody was telling me anything. And it was a male nurse that was caring for both of us. He came into my room, and he said, Miss Kelly, he said, we've ran every test that we know, but we can't find anything wrong with you. And he said, but I'm going to say this to you. He said, I know nobody's talked to you, but I'm going to say this. He said, I'm not glad that you got sick. He said, but I'm glad that you got sick. He said, because you saved your husband's life. He told me, he said, if he had went to bed tonight, you would have woke up to a whole different story. Jesus. And I looked at him. And he said, yeah. He started pointing up because, in our place of employment, a lot of times we can't be free to discuss religion. Right. And so I said, so you're saying that God allowed this to be this way because he wasn't going to come here unless something happened to me. And he said, you got it. He said somebody was praying for him. And he said, I'm going to go ahead and get you discharged so that I can walk you over to the other side. When I got over there, my husband was hooked up to all kind of tools, all kind of things. And, I kept hearing them say, the next 24 hours was crucial. They got to get these numbers down. No, I still don't know a whole lot because nobody's really saying anything. The head doctor comes down from the upstairs. He comes down. He said, I just had to meet this man that was walking dead, that walked into this emergency room on his own. And so I looked at him and I said, well, sir, what do you mean by that? He said, do you not know that he was a walking dead individual? He said he shouldn't have walked into this emergency room the way that he did. Because they kept asking my husband, how did you get in here? Where's the wheelchair? You know, they kept saying stuff like that. And we looking like, wheelchair, you know.
Right.
No.
Right.
And so he said to us, he said his sugar level was over 1,200. They tried to take it in the emergency room. The emergency room only reads to 500. They couldn't get a reading.
Okay.
So they had to take blood and send it out upstairs or wherever they do the blood sample.
Okay.
So the doctor upstairs got the numbers before they got it downstairs. His sugar levels was over 1,200. We don't know the exact number, but over 1,200. He said an individual that comes in here with a sugar level like that usually don't walk out this door. He said, as a matter of fact, he said they don't even make it to this point. He said we're taking them over to the morgue. And we're putting the stamp on his toe. And all of this, I'm taking all of this in, and I'm like, oh God, I said, you didn't prepare me for this one.
Okay.
Because you never told me at the age of 39 that I was going to be a widow. You didn't tell me that. So wait a minute, back this up. We gotta talk. And you know, we checked them in. Finally got them upstairs, and you know, the nurse came in and she was like, I just had to meet him. She said because somebody. She said, let me close this door. She said, somebody was praying for you. And that lady started shouting and screaming in his room.
Wow.
And I said, okay, God. I said, I don't know what you're doing in this, but I see you lining us up with believers because, see, everybody that touched him was a believer. I said, but you didn't tell me. You didn't prepare me for this. What part of the, how the kids say, what part of the game was this?
Right.
You know, so anyway, he stayed there a couple of days.
Now, had he had symptoms of diabetes? Had he just wow.
No symptoms, no nothing.
Okay.
But there were things that was happening that he didn't share with me.
Okay.
That probably if he had shared them with me, then I would have known that.
To get him looked at maybe a little sooner. Okay.
Yes.
Wow. So in addition to now you have so many losses, so many deaths, processing, grieving. You had a husband who was diagnosed with diabetes with a sugar level over 1,200 when he walked into the emergency room. Thank you, Jesus, for being our healer. And then, of course, caring for him and tending to him. You also had your own battles with your own health issues.
Yes. Just, I guess what you can say, the little hiccups that come with our body. And, you know, so just different things, the little hiccups that come along with us that, you know, as women, we begin to,
absolutely.
You know,
bodies
so
changing,
exactly.
changes, transition.
You know,
yes,
but, you know, just even after his situation, you know, you mentioned my grandfather. That happened, 2 days after my husband gets out the hospital, I get a call, they're rushing him to the hospital. He needed emergency heart surgery. They got there, they couldn't do the surgery because when they opened him up, he had tumors that covered his entire body. And they basically told us that in order for them to move forward to do anything, they had to do radiation to try to shrink the tumors. So they told us he was there from that Monday till the following Monday. They was going to release him to start radiation. He never made it out that day. And I got a call that Tuesday. I was working and told me that if I wanted to see him alive, I needed to get on the highway and come now. So I'm originally from Missouri, so that's like a 10-hour drive, 11 hours if you stop, So I remember driving down the highway just begging and pleading with God, asking God to just hold him until I get there. So, I'm dealing with this. My husband, his health is still not at the best, but, nevertheless, he jumps in the car, he comes with me. And, so I get there and, I say my piece to my grandfather. Of course, I couldn't have a conversation with him because he had already went into like a coma type thing. And I was there that Friday. I got there that Wednesday early morning. That Friday morning, he passed. And I remember being in the hospital room, just laying over his body, crying, and saying, God, did it have to cost me this? So notice when I said, I made the statement of saying that whatever it cost me, that I still say yes. And I asked God, I said, God, why did it have to cost this?
And what was your yes? When you were saying yes, LaKisha, what were you saying yes to? What was that when I'll still say yes? Yes to what?
Well, oftentimes we know that God is calling us to a greater assignment, greater mantle. And for probably about 5 years now, I knew that God was calling me into the apostolic realm. I never wanted to accept that because I knew a great cost came with that. And it was almost like when I knew God was calling me as a prophet, I didn't want to accept it because I knew that the prophets in the Bible, if I could just be liberal, they went through hell. I didn't want that. And so, like I said, probably about 5 years now, probably even longer than that, I knew it's been prophesied to me, God spoke it to me, that, he was calling me into that realm of the apostle, and I didn't want it. Because I knew the weight was heavy. I knew the warfare was heavy. So I didn't want it. I didn't know if I was ready for that. And I remember before I even got to the point of telling God yes, it was this apostle, didn't know me from Adam and Eve, came to me and said to me, how long do you plan on running? And I looked at him and he said, yes, I'm talking to you. He said, how long do you plan on running? He said, because it's not going anywhere. He said, it's just going to keep hitting you, smacking you in the face until you just tell God yes. He said, as a matter of fact, he said, you're a prophet trying to operate in it. Because he said, but you're not trying to operate in it on purpose. He said, you're just operating in who you are. He said, but you don't want to take on the mantle or the title of it. He said, how long are you going to run? That stuck with me. And, like I said, it wasn't an intentional thing that I came and just said, God, I say yes. It's one of those moments where you in there, you snotting and crying, you done got caught up. And you just say, God, and I said it just
surrender.
Yes. I said, God, I'm tired of running. I said it just like that. So, to say that's a weight, because see, after all of this happened.
And I just want to say, the reason why I made it a point to say that she surrendered is because there's a difference between submission and surrender. Because submission is based on your choice. When you surrender, you come up holding up. It's like, that's it. It's like at this point, it's based on really what God requires of me. I have totally surrendered to His will. You have gone beyond a place of submission to a place of total surrender.
And that's good, sis, because I never looked at it like that. That submission is your choice. What you say, I'm just gonna do this, But surrender is one of them things that look. I done ran from this thing so long, and
it ain't nothing else for me to do.
Yeah.
I don't have another choice. Basically, it's like police surrounding your house, LaKisha. I don't have another option, so I just got to come out with my hands up and
say,
surrender.
I give up.
Give up.
And so, just being at that point, but.
So that was your yes. That was your yes. That's what you were saying yes to, your assignment. And so now you had your husband. Now we're going back to your grandfather. I just wanted our viewers to be clear on what you were saying yes to. And so you made it to the hospital to see your granddad laying there. And you had a chance to make peace or talk with him. And then how did that affect you?
It affected me in a major way because my grandfather, that was like the backbone. He was the strength to the family. And I was my grandfather, everybody say I was his favorite. Because he would tell my husband, like, hey, you done came in, you done messed up, you done took my baby with So that was like, it pulled something out of me to see him laying there, and especially see him laying there helpless. And like I said, the day the breath was taken from his body, I asked God, why did they have to cost this? So I went back to that knowing that, and it was like I didn't do it intentionally. It's just like that was just something that rolled out of my mouth. Why did it have to cost me this? And just going back, because often I would joke with him and tell him, when you die, I'm gonna be the one, I'm gonna preach your eulogy, because can't nobody tell them about you but And I said, because we done spent some time together, so I know you. And I said, I ain't gonna let nobody just come in here and preach your eulogy. And so we were planning the funeral, and my cousin asked me, he was like, are you gonna, and I told him, I said, I can't do it. My husband told me, he said, yes, you can do it. I said, I can't do it. At the funeral, they asked me to speak, just to say something. And I got up there, and it was just like, I was just numb. And we came back home after the funeral, and it's like I just went into a shell. Didn't want to talk to anybody, didn't want to have anything to do with ministry. I don't want no
ministry or God. You didn't want anything to do with ministry, or you didn't want anything to do
I'll say I didn't want anything to do with the service of ministry.
Okay.
Because I still read my Bible every day.
Okay. I
still sometimes would lay in my bed, and I guess I was talking to God. Okay. I guess I was praying, But when it came to the service of ministry, I wanted nothing to do with it. I didn't want to preach in your pulpit. I didn't want to preach in nothing. I didn't want to pray at your church. I didn't want to do anything. I don't want to prophesy, so don't even try to pull that part of me about it, because I don't want to do that anymore. And probably toward the beginning of the year, January 2020, it's like I began to get oppressed in me, because it's like I could feel my grandfather telling me, come on, he called me Bookie. I can hear him say, come on, Bookie, get up. You got to keep moving. You got to do this. I went back to church, Pastor Freeman asked me, he said, woman of God, I think it's time. And I said, I don't know, Pastor. And he was like, I think it's time. So he asked me to speak. And the following Sunday, but it was like God kept dealing with me about David.
Okay.
When he was in the cave.
Mm-hmm.
See, a lot of times we look at the cave as a dark place. But in actuality, when God allowed David to go into that cave, David was in his preparation season. God was preparing him to walk into the kingdom as a king. Not just David, but as a king. So God was preparing him. There were some things that David had to face in that cave that he couldn't have faced in the opening with everybody else. And a lot of times God allowed me to search out the tiger, because the lion, we want to carry ourselves as a lion, say we lions. But God showed me that when the lion gets ready to give birth to the cubs, she don't just give birth out in the opening. She goes into a cave and she begins to birth the cubs inside of the cave, and she stays in the cave until the cubs are able to go out and be able to fend for themselves. Okay. And I bought that message. Oh God, it was so hard. Okay. And that following Monday, I had a doctor's appointment at the gynecologist. And now, mind you, I go back to say, New Year's, I said 2020, this is going to be my year. This is the year. This is a personal year. Here again, not knowing what I'm saying out of my mouth. This year is personal. Okay. Because I'm going to get me back. I'm going to step into my purpose in this year. Well, go to the doctor, and she tells me from the pap smear we did, we found some spots on your ovaries that I need to look into deeper. So, send me over to the ultrasound room. The ultrasound comes back. I go back to her side. She says, well, it's a cyst on your ovary. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, what do you mean by that? What is, so she tells me, well, because of your age, you see you have 3 kids. I know you're married, but I think the best option is a hysterectomy. Immediately in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is overwhelming right here. Because you're saying you see spots, there's no telling what these spots can be. You're saying hysterectomy. No, I'm not thinking about having no more kids. But is that, maybe that option, I wanted to keep it open, even though I know at the time I didn't want anymore. My baby was getting ready to be 13. Okay. Okay. So I came home, I talked to my husband, and he told me, he said, whatever is the best decision, that's what we'll go with. He said if the hysterectomy was best, then that's what we'll go with. I went back, told her that, okay, we need to move forward. Not knowing moving forward that the next week I was going to get a call and say hysterectomy is scheduled for March the 2nd. Pre-op is scheduled for February the 24th. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought it was going to have some months to register this, So, okay, I'm trying to dig myself out this hole, and now here's something else. Have the surgery. Pandemic hits.
It's just like one thing, boom, boom, boom. Like you didn't have a chance to recover from the one thing and then the next thing came along, right?
Mm-hmm. Pandemic hit. Mm-hmm. During the pandemic, I'm sitting in this house, walls closing in. I'm trying to pick up this Bible. I'm trying to keep myself focused in His Word. I'm trying to watch the different services online, or try to find something that's going to minister to me. End of March, get a call, find my uncle dead. Like you said, don't know whether it's COVID, don't know what it is. Just somebody went to the house to check on him, he dead. Can't have a funeral because that's when everything was like
Exactly.
literally, yeah. So, as a matter of fact, Missouri, they're not even letting people in the state from out of, so it's like, okay, that's funeral home saying, well, y'all can cremate them and have a memorial site. That's the only. So no closure, and that was like one of my uncles. He was like the livelihood part. But anyway, so dealing with that, I find myself falling just deeper and deeper and deeper.
I got to turn off my notifications.
Deeper and deeper into a depression. To the point where I find myself saying, I gotta get counseling because I can't. This ain't gonna work. Because I'm gonna be in the little straitjacket. I'm not gonna be Prophetess Kelly. I'm gonna be out there in the straitjacket trying to, So I need some help. And I know that in the Christian world, that's not a popular thing because we think that if we just pray to God and stand on the word, that everything's just gonna be all right. I had to be real with me. I had to take off every title, had to take off every limitation, and I had to say within me, God put them in place for a reason. Just like God opens the door for us, He opened the door for them to be in the position that they were in.
And you're talking about mental health, professional counseling, somebody who could maybe help you along your journey to process the grief, to process the health issues, just to process emotions and feelings, things that were displaced, and all of that, right? That you felt it was a time and a need to get some reinforcement, some more reinforcement. And we know we have access to God, and we have prayer, and He gives us, we get on our knees and would you consider it, because like you said, in the Christian world it's not popular. In the Christian world it's not popular, and I believe that your help were Christian based, right? They were Christian based, but in the faith-based world, it's not quite really popular to have to receive psychological help, or seeing a psychiatrist, or getting someone as a counselor, and things like that, because we know that life is spiritual. We know that life is spiritual. Everything is spiritual before it manifests. But so many things have been stigmatized. It's demonic. It's a spirit. It's attack. Not to say that that's not also true.
That's right.
However, like you said, it's the same thing. It's the same way that we use doctors, right? Would you say, like, the same way that we go see a doctor, the same way that we make a doctor's appointment, to see a doctor, and to check ourselves, to have wellness checks, or